Welcome to Wawa Sandwire. Today we're talking about netizens' reaction toward Anwar's statement regarding his cabinet's performance. Specifically, we're looking at that really bold claim from Prime Minister Dato Seri Anwar Ibrahim, which came out just a few days ago after the midterm cabinet review.
Oh, it was a huge statement.
Huge. He came out and said that based on his review, no minister is performing poorly. Not a single one is, quote, lagging behind.
Right, which is, almost unheard of in any government anywhere. A perfect scorecard, essentially.
Exactly. And he didn't just stop there. He said this success was a collective effort and that it's led to a real, tangible increase in the national sense of well-being. Basically, the people are happy.
And that's really the core of it, isn't it? The justification. He's trying to shift the entire conversation.
Okay, let's unpack that because it's a fascinating strategy. He argued that we shouldn't judge performance on what he called cold economic data alone.
Well, yes. He was very direct about that. He said you have to look at human values and people's general happiness.
It's a pretty fundamental pivot from the usual metrics, right?
It is, and it's smart politically. If things like GDP growth or the ringgit's performance aren't telling the story you want, you find a different story to tell.
So you change the metric.
You change the metric. He even gave examples, pointing out that some very wealthy countries, a lot of them, still have really severe poverty and homelessness. So a high GDP doesn't automatically mean everyone is doing well.
A fair point. But okay, if you're going to move away from numbers, you still have to offer some kind of proof, right? What did he point to as tangible evidence of this success?
Infrastructure. It immediately went to big, visible projects, things you can see being built.
And the big one was the Pan-Borneo Highway.
Pan-Borneo Highway, absolutely. This isn't just, fixing a few potholes. It's a massive generation-defining project for Sabah and Sarawak. And he backed it up with some very specific figures.
Let's get into those because the numbers are pretty staggering.
They are. He recommitted to 6.9 billion ringgit for the Sabah part of the highway.
6.9 billion.
And another 6.0 billion for the Sarawak segment. These aren't small promises. This is serious capital investment designed to show that, they're not just talking, they're actually building.
But people have heard promises about big projects before. There's always a lot of cynicism that these things will just stall out after the announcement.
He tried to address that head on. He announced this new accountability system.
What does that involve?
Starting this December, he's initiating these coordination meetings specifically to supervise, and he said strictly supervise, the progress on about 250 major projects.
So a hands-on approach.
Yes. The message is, we're going to watch this closely month by month and make sure it gets done, which is a direct jab at previous administrations where, pledges often just faded away.
Okay, so that's the official narrative. A perfect report card, a focus on happiness, and huge supervised projects underway.
A very tidy, very positive picture.
So how did that land with the people who are supposedly feeling this increase in well-being?
Not well. Not well at all. The reaction on social media was immediate and, frankly, brutal. Overwhelmingly, the sentiment was just disbelief.
It seems like that feeling of a disconnect was the first thing that came through.
Instantly, people felt like the government was just patting itself on the back. We saw so many comments saying the prime minister was living in a dream world or in his own world.
I saw one that said self-praise is the highest form of flattery.
Exactly. And others just said he was talking just to make himself happy. It immediately created this huge gap between the government's reality and what people felt was their own reality.
And this is where it gets interesting, because the criticism wasn't just general grumbling. People got very, very specific. They started naming names.
Oh, they did. They directly challenged that claim that no one is lagging. And one ministry in particular was brought up again and again.
The Education Ministry.
The Education Ministry. It was consistently at the top of the list for criticism. The comments were blunt. Things like the education minister's performance was the worst, or that the ministry had totally failed to deliver.
Education is always a sensitive topic. It affects almost every family in the country.
It does. And when people feel that there's instability in the curriculum or reforms aren't happening, that frustration is very personal. So for the PM to give a blanket pass while so many people are upset with a core ministry like education, it just damages the credibility of the whole exercise.
And the criticism didn't stop there. It actually went all the way to the top, to the finance portfolio.
Which is, of course, held by the prime minister himself, so he was essentially grading his own homework.
And the netizens gave him a failing grade on one specific issue.
Yes, this wasn't about broad economic policy. It was about something very specific. The government's inability to repay tens of billions of ringgit in taxpayer refunds.
Let's just sit with that for a second. Tens of billions. This isn't just a bureaucratic delay.
No, this is a massive operational failure. We're talking about money that is owed to businesses and individuals. For them, it's not cold economic data. It's their cash flow. It's their ability to pay salaries, to invest.
And when a government can't sort that out, it really hits at their core competency, doesn't it?
It completely undermines it. How can you talk about a national sense of well-being when you're holding on to billions in refunds that people are counting on? It just doesn't add up.
The list went on, too. It wasn't just education and finance.
No, people were calling for other ministers to be replaced. The Home Minister was mentioned frequently, and also the Minister for Religious Affairs. So you're seeing a pattern here. The public sees major problems in education, finance, security, and social policy, yet the official report is everything's fine.
Which leads to the next logical question from the public. What kind of standard are you even using?
Exactly. And that was a huge theme in the comments. People started saying his standards must just be incredibly low.
I remember seeing one comment that said, "Now we know how low his standard threshold is."
A brutal comment, but it captures the feeling. The implication is that as long as a minister avoids a major catastrophic scandal, they get a passing grade. The bar is on the floor.
And then the logic turned back on the prime minister himself. If nobody is failing,
Then they must all be in the same boat, as one person put it. The criticism became that his own performance was the benchmark.
leading to comments like, "The one whose performance is the most terrible is himself."
I mean, that's just a devastating piece of feedback. It suggests the public has lost faith not just in the ministers, but in the leaders' very ability to judge what good performance even looks like.
And this all comes back to that central claim about happiness. The government says happiness is up.
But the people on the ground are saying, we are living with more pressure day by day. Where is the happiness?
Or just simply, I don't feel it at all. The contrast is just jarring.
It's two different worlds. The government is talking about these huge long-term infrastructure wins, but people are dealing with the daily grind, the cost of living, the value of the ringgit. Those are the things that define their reality.
And people were quick to connect this perceived disconnect to real-world political consequences.
Oh, absolutely. They brought up the election results.
The logic is simple, right? If your government is doing so well and everyone is so happy, why aren't you winning elections?
One netizen made that point very sharply, referencing the state elections. They said the happiness claim can't be true if the government coalition didn't get a single egg in the recent Sarawak state elections.
And there was a warning attached to that.
A pretty stark warning that if this continues, they're looking at a defeat like a landslide in peninsular Malaysia. It's a reminder that ultimately the voters are the ones who do the performance review.
And even with all the talk about infrastructure in East Malaysia, there was still this underlying unresolved issue.
The Malaysia Agreement, 1963, MA 63.
Yes, the billions for the highway are great, but there's a bigger financial promise that many feel hasn't been kept.
And this is a really important point. MA 63 isn't just a policy. It's a foundational constitutional agreement. It stipulates that 40% of the revenue the federal government collects in Sabah and Sarawak should be returned to those states.
And people see the highway funding as separate from that obligation.
Completely. So when you see a comment asking, when are you going to pay the 40% owed to Sabah and Sarawak? It shows you that no amount of infrastructure spending can fully smooth over a perceived failure to honor a core constitutional promise.
It's a debt.
It's seen as a debt. And until that's settled, there will always be this tension.
Finally, there were the smaller, specific promises people remembered. The ones that just seemed to have vanished.
Yes, the things that got a lot of press at the time, but I've seen little follow-through. It paints a picture of a team that is just big talk.
Like the environmental promises. Cutting 1 tree and planting 100, or building 200 new parks.
Things that sound great, but people are now asking, where are they? It feeds into that narrative of style over substance. There's a lot of talk about values and vision, but the follow-through on tangible day-to-day improvements seems to be lacking for many.
So when you put it all together, you have this deep conflict. The government's review says everything is a shining success, people are happier.
But the public's review is one of intense skepticism. They're demanding accountability for key ministries, they're questioning the government's grasp of their economic reality, and they're pointing to unkept promises.
It really creates a huge gulf between the official story and the public experience. And the big question moving forward is, does a statement like this actually build confidence, or does it erode trust even further? Praising everyone so highly might just end up making people more cynical. We'll have to see.
Indeed, we will.
Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this.